Halloween. We'll wake the dead and make the suburbs scream. We can be whoever we want to be. This night can only get better. Let's stay up late watching horror movies. Just remember Freddy's only in dreams. Stay close and we can both avoid the creeps. This night is only getting better.
Can we make this last forever? Pumpkin smile while we're there together. Just make your promise that you'll never break. If I be your Alice, you'll be my vampire.
Candy corn and witchy treats. I'll trade your Kit Kat for Reese's. You give me the sugar rush of my dreams. My tooth is only getting sweeter. I've got a Dracula kid for you and me to lay on the roof and watch the moon rising. As the bats screech above us and the wolves howl out, we'll know this night can't get any better. You'll never break. Come and dance with me this Halloween. We'll wake the dead and make the suburbs scream. We can be whoever we want to be. This night can only get better. Let's stay up late watching horror movies. Just remember Freddy's only in dreams. Stay close and we can both avoid the creeps. This night is only getting better.
Can we make this last forever? Pumpkin smile while we're there together. Just make your promise that you'll never break. If I be your Alice, you'll be my vampire.
Candy corn and witchy treats. I'll trade your Kit Kat for Reese's. You give me the sugar rush of my dreams. My tooth is only getting sweeter. I've got a Dracula kid for you and me to lay on the roof and watch the moon rising. As the bats screech above us and the wolves howl out, we'll know this night can't get any better. You'll never break. Come and dance with me this Halloween. We'll wake the dead and make the suburbs scream. We can be whoever we want to be. This night can only get better. Let's stay up late watching horror movies. Just remember Freddy's only in dreams. Stay close and we can both avoid the creeps. This night is only getting better.
Can we make this last forever? Pumpkin smile while we're there together. Just make your promise that you'll never break. If I be your Alice, you'll be my vampire.
Candy corn and witchy treats. I'll trade your Kit Kat for Reese's. You You give me the sugar rush of my dreams. My tooth is only getting sweeter. I've got a Dracula cake for you and me to lay on the roof and watch the moon rising. As the bats screech above us and the wolves howl out, we'll know this night can't get any better. You'll never break.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Make sure I'm not up too loud here. All right. So I am your host, Mother Dela Morte, and this is the Horror Gallery. Tonight we've got, it's a better known one. It's a better known story. Maybe not quite in the limelight with like Jack the Ripper or something like that. But we're going to be talking about the Ratcliff Highway Murders tonight. But let's see what's going on. See if we've got anybody in the comments. If you're new here, pop in, say hello, let us know where you're from, because we always like new victims here in the crypt. So give me just 1 second. Let me get switched over there real quick. There. All right. So it looks like we have somebody over there on Twitch. So hello, somebody over there on Twitch. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. So go ahead and share out. This is the best way to support your streamers, is just by sharing, and it is free. If you want to know about any of the other things or platforms that we're on, things that we offer, you can see all of our information up in the description of this live stream. So it looks like we have Kisa in the house, and she says, hello, Odd Mama, loud and clear. Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Hey, Kisa, we missed you last time. I hope you were doing well. But we are going to go ahead and get started. I don't have a whole lot of housekeeping to do tonight, other than we will be doing, I do believe, though, You Can't Sit With Us podcast tomorrow night. We had some things come up, so we weren't able to do it Thursday. And then, of course, on Sunday, you're going to have Roots Bleed Red at their new time for Eating Sunday. So, yeah. So, anyway, so we're going to get to the Ratcliff Highway Murders. Again, this is a little bit more better known, so some of you guys may have heard about it. So, in the early 19th century, London was a city of stark contrast, where the opulence of the Regency era rubbed shoulders with the dire poverty of its underbelly. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, drawing thousands to the city in search of work, which led to overcrowded slums, rampant crime, and a significant divide between the wealthy and the poor. And we've talked about this before when we were talking about some of the cemeteries over there in London. just the kind of the overall unsanitariness, and plus the police as we know it now, they weren't really a thing yet. So the economic landscape was marked by the aftermath, of course, the Napoleonic Wars, with returning soldiers from often finding themselves jobless, contributing to the social unrest. Now, London's infrastructure struggled to keep pace with its exploding population, leading to inadequate housing, poor sanitation, and a breeding ground for both disease and criminal activity. Social conditions were equally bad. The concept of policing as we know it today was virtually non existent. Law enforcement was patchy, consisting mainly of night watchmen, parish constables, community groups, things like that. It was woefully inadequate against the backdrop of the city's challenges. Now, this period was also before the reforms that would later lead to the establishment of the Metropolitan Police in 1829. Public hangings were common, serving both as a method of punishment as well as a public entertainment, reflecting the harshness, of course, of the justice system at that time. Moreover, the lack of effective street lighting made basically the streets were pretty much a nightmare in London. It made it very perilous during this time, with darkness cloaking all manner of nefarious deeds. So this would have been close to the time of Jack the Ripper. I think he came a little bit after. Now, the Ratcliff Highway, known today simply as the Highway, carved its notorious reputation through the heart of East London near the docks. It was an artery teeming with life, but also with vice and violence. The area was infamous for its sailors' taverns, brothels, and the transient population that flowed basically in and out like the tides. Life there was tough, with many residents living in squatter. The street itself was lined with businesses that catered to the maritime trade, including chandries, rope makers, drapers, much like a family we're getting ready to talk about, which was the Marr family. Now, their tale is very tragic, and they would have a tragic fate, which would soon capture the attention of all of London. So, it was close to midnight on December 7th of 1811 when Margaret Jewell, the maid in the service of the Marr family, wrapped her shawl tightly around her as she stepped out into the cold, damp air of Ratcliff Highway. She was sent on what should have been a simple errand to purchase oysters for a late supper. The streets were dimly lit, the gas lamps casting long shadows, and the silence of the night was occasionally broken by the distant sounds from the nearby docks or passing revelers. With her mind on the warmth of the shop and the tasks that awaited her return, little did Margaret know her mundane task would really shield her from just absolutely unimaginable terror. Upon her return, Margaret found the door to the Marrs establishment uncharacteristically locked. Her knocks echoed unanswered in the silent street, a silence that now seemed ominously heavy. Alarmed, she fetched help, and what they found was a scene of terror. The first body discovered was that of James Gowan. He was the apprentice, lying in a pool of his own blood, his skull brutally crushed. Moving further into the shop, they found Timothy Marr, his face disfigured from violent blows, his throat cut with such ferocity that it nearly severed his head from his body. The sight was so shocking that it caused one of the neighbors to actually faint. Now, in the living quarters, the horror continued. Lamar was found, her body bearing witness to an attack just as savage as that of her husband's. Her life extinguished in her own home where she should have been safest. But perhaps the most heart-wrenching discovery was the infant, Timothy Jr., 14 months old, in his cradle, killed with a merciless strike that spoke of an unimaginable cruelty. The scene was one of utter devastation. No room was untouched by violence. No life within had been spared, save, of course, for Margaret, whose mundane era had really saved her life. The initial assumption might have been robbery, and that's what they thought at first. But the chaos within suggested something far more personal or pathological. Valuables remained, scattered but untouched, suggesting the intruder's purpose was not theft, but simply needless slaughter. The weapon, a ship's carpenter maul, was left behind, stained with the blood of the Moore family, its presence almost taunting the investigators with its boldness. As Margaret stood amidst the carnage, the oysters forgotten, her survival became the sole, chilling testament to the night's events, marking the beginning of one of London's most darkest mysteries. So let's get into the comments real quick, and then we'll get back to the story, because it looks like we've got a lot of people in here from a couple of different places. All right, let's see. All right. So Henry says, hello. Well, hello, Henry. We are so glad to have you here. I hope you enjoy this story. And then John's over on YouTube. Hey, John, it is great to see you. Hold on, let me get this up for you. There we go. We missed you the last couple of times. I'm so glad you were able to join us. And then Kisa says she's doing well. We are so glad. Oh, well, we've missed you too. Kisa said that she has missed Odd Mother. I have missed you as well. And let's see. So Kisa asked, were the police called constables? I do believe that they were. Yes. I know different regions have different names, but I do believe that's what they would have been called. And then Prometheus Gaming sends waves. Hello. And then we've got Calvin. Hello, Calvin. He's over on Twitch. Oh, and guys, anybody that's joining us from over on X, unfortunately, the streaming software that we have can tend to be glitchy. Sometimes I get your comments, sometimes I don't. So if it seems like I'm ignoring you, I am not. It's just that your comments will not show over here on my streaming software. And then John says cities were a mess back then. I'd rather have lived in the country. Yeah, they were. I did a whole, I think it was a 2-part stream on the necessity of the cemeteries and because of the graveyards getting overused, and just some of the deplorable conditions that people lived in. It's a wonder that they didn't have more plagues and sickness than they did, because it was just absolutely horrendous. But you're absolutely right. I would have much rather lived in the country. And then Kisa says, yeah, poor baby. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, it was a tragedy. It really was. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around such violence. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. So let's get back to this. All right, so the brutal slaying of the Moore family sent shockwaves through London, igniting a widespread panic that was palpable across the city. The sheer violence of the murders, occurring in what should have been the safety of their own home, led to an unprecedented level of fear among the populace. This fear was compounded by the gruesomeness of the scene discovered by Margaret Jewell, the maid, and the subsequent realization that such savagery could actually just basically happen to anyone at any time. Now, the immediate impact on the local community was profound. Ratcliff Highway, known for its tough and rough edges, became a focal point of terror and fascination. There was an urgent clamor for justice, leading to a swift and somewhat chaotic manhunt. Local magistrates, pressured by the public's outcry and the horror of the crime, offered substantial rewards for information, which actually was really uncommon at that time as far as a practice. So this kind of gives you an idea of just how society was reacting, how the city was reacting to these murders. Now, reflecting the severity of the community's demand for resolution, the manhunt was not just a police endeavor, but became a community-wide activity, with citizens actively participating, driven by both fear for their safety and a desire to return to some semblance of normalcy. This collective response underscored the community's desperation to apprehend the predators or predators, and restore peace to their shaken lives. Now, on the chilling night of December 19th, 1811, just 22 days after the Mars murders, the tranquility of the King's Arm pub in London was shattered. John Turner, a lodger at the Williamson establishment, made a desperate escape through a window, wearing little more than his nightclothes. His frantic escape was the first indication to the outside world that something horrific was unfolding within. Alerted by Turner's distress, locals and watchmen alike converged on the scene, unprepared for the horror they were about to witness. Upon entering the Williamsons' residence above the pub, the first responders stumbled upon a scene of unimaginable violence. John Williamson, his wife Elizabeth, and their servant Bridget Harrington were found brutally murdered, their bodies bearing the marks of a maul, and their throats were all cut as well. Now, this mirrored the savagery that befell the Marr family not 2 weeks prior. The discovery was made in the order of Turner's escape, alerting them. First to find John, then Elizabeth, and finally Bridget. Each victim positioned in ways that suggested no chance for escape or defense. The immediate aftermath of the discovery was marked by chaos and fear. News of the second set of murders spread like wildfire through London, intensifying the terror among all its citizens. The condition of the bodies and the method of killing immediately linked these murders to the recent Marr family tragedy, leading to widespread speculation about a serial killer or perhaps a vendetta against tavern keepers, which that kind of thing, it was much more lawless back then. So that would have been something that would have been an easy assumption over, as well as a serial killer, or what we refer to as a serial killer. They would have more likely referred to them as a fiend. Now, in the following days, the investigation took on a desperate urgency. The connection between the crimes, made it evident by the murder weapon and the modus operandi, led to a frenzied search for the perpetrator. The investigation into the Williamson murders was marked by the crude and often inefficient methods of the time. Watchmen and local volunteers who were the first responders, lacked the forensic tools and methodologies we take for granted today. And actually, it was not uncommon for just processions of looky-loos to come in almost directly after a crime just to say they could see what happened, which would absolutely destroy any type of footprints or anything like that. It was very common for people to take things as souvenirs, things along those lines. So it was a lot different than it is today. Now, the primary approach was to gather eyewitness accounts like that of John Turner, and to physically search for the suspect based on the very basic descriptions that they usually had. The concept of preserving a crime scene or collecting evidence in a systematic way was largely absent. Instead, the community relied heavily on direct observation, immediate physical evidence like the murder weapon, and the hope of catching the perpetrator in the act or through public denunciations. This led to numerous false leads, rampant speculation, and the wrongful accusation of several individuals, which only added to the public's anxiety. Now, in the days following the Williamson's murders, the Thames River Police heightened their patrol along the river. Suspecting that the perpetrator might would attempt to escape via the waterway or might be involved in other criminal activities there. Because usually the docks were pretty rough. The areas around were rough enough, but the docks were definitely a rough place to be. Now, they questioned sailors, dock workers, and anyone who might have seen something unusual. This was partly because the murder weapon, a maul with its initials suggesting a connection to the maritime trades, were such tools that were common. Now, I will tell you, and it'll come up a little bit later in the story, but this particular maul was either stolen or the murderer took at least some pains to cover up evidence related to the maul, because normally in situations like this, it was very common to scratch your initials into your tools, and that had been scraped off. So it had either been stolen prior or they did take some pains to hide the identity of who owned that maul. Now, suspects again were numerous due to the public's fear and general call for information. However, one figure did stand out in the investigation. John Williams, an Irish sailor, became the prime suspect. John Williams emerged as the primary suspect in the Ratcliff Highway Murders, largely due to his connections to the area and the people involved in the crimes. His background was not particularly remarkable. Like many, he lived a life interspersed with periods at sea and time spent in lodging houses when he was ashore. What drew the attention to Williams was his acquaintances with some of the victims and his residence in the Pear Tree, which was a lodging house not far from both murders. His familiarity with maritime tools, including the maul used in the murders, which was later found to have been tampered with to obscure its origins, further impacted him. The evidence at that point pointed towards Williams as the most likely suspect. A shirt with bloodstains was found in his room. However, he claimed it was from a fight. More damning was the testimony of a lodger that also lived there at the Pear Tree, who mentioned seeing Williams with a maul. However, there was no direct eyewitness to the crimes, nor was there any confession or unequivocal physical evidence linking Williams indefinitely to the murders. The public and investigators, desperate for a resolution, leaned heavily on these very slim links. Now, what did also make them suspicious, however, was his sudden disappearance after the second set of murders, which again, like I said, added to the suspicion, as did his behavior when questioned, which was described as evasive. John Williams' arrest did not lead, however, to a trial, but instead to a dramatic turn of events. And we're going to get to that here in just a moment. I am going to run a quick break for our midway, and I will see you back here in about a minute or two.
This fall, prepare to enter a realm of terror.
This forest is creepy. I'm scared. Are you sure we're going the right way?
Where shadows dance and whispers haunt the night.
Come on, it's just some spooky old woods.
Did you hear about what happened to those kids last year?
Let's not talk about that. It creeps me out.
But once you enter, there's no turning back.
On behalf of our wonderful residents and the Pickwich Chamber of Commerce, welcome to Pickwich, Ohio. Pickwich offers some truly special natural beauty, great lodging and restaurants, unique cultural activities, and of course, plenty of outdoor recreation. We have so much for you to explore in this little slice of paradise. Like our beautiful Ritual Hill, Parcosa Caverns, or Nug Swamp. We can't wait to get a taste of you. So, come on down and visit us. You won't find a friendlier gosh darn little town that's neither here nor there. Anywhere else. Need more information or help planning your next trip? Visit us on the World Wide Web at peakwichohio.com or contact our Visitors Center at 513-278-7701. Hope to have you soon.
Well, we haven't seen them in a while, and it may or may not have something to do with possibly me maybe being threatened. Anyway, so let's get over to the comments real quick and see what we've got going on over here, and then we'll get back to the story. All right, so John says that they were surprised that they didn't immediately, if I'm reading it right, John, immediately suspect Margaret. You got to remember the time Lizzie Borden, I don't believe, had happened yet, and she pretty much got away with it. So if she in fact did murder her family, and just because they, in a lot of instances, didn't think that women could be quite as brutal. Plus, it could have a lot to do with these were probably very large and tough men. But yeah, that would have been someone they would have looked at nowadays for sure. And Star is here. Hello, Star. How are you? So glad you could pop in and say hello and join us tonight. So Kisa is saying the country, or that England pretty much was a lot cleaner outside the city. Yes. It would have been a lot cleaner, I do imagine, outside the city. Nadine! Hey, Nadine! And then Kisa looks like she is over on Twitch now. Yay! All right, let's see. So John says, yeah, they didn't have any fingerprinting, and it's really funny if you follow some of like the development of like Scotland Yard and a lot of the forensic things that we use now. Fingerprinting was seen as more of a pseudoscience back then, which is just kind of funny, but that's how we learn. But yeah, they didn't have any of that. And I was reading something a while back, it was kind of interesting. So my understanding is a lot of times back in this time, if they found a murder weapon, and they believed it had been cleaned, or they believed that it might have been a murder weapon, but that it had been cleaned. A lot of times they would put it outside and see if flies would land on it. Because even though they couldn't test it for blood, if there were any type of indication of blood on a weapon, then it would attract flies. But it also seems like there's a really big chance of you maybe cutting up a roast, and that's what attracted flies. So there was a lot of things that weren't very scientific about that too. So. Oh my goodness. So Nadine said she went through 4 haunted houses and a maze tonight. That sounds amazing. And it was a 3D haunted house. Is is that the one that's got like the laser stuff that kind of disorients you? Because we went to one a couple of years back that was like that. Like it would look like there was a wall there and there wouldn't be a wall there, or that kind of thing. It was pretty cool if we're kind of talking around the same type of idea. All right. So let's go ahead and get back to the 3D glasses and graffiti. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. That's new to me. That's really I like that. That's cool. All right. So where were we? So we're going to get into the fact that he didn't have a trial per se. Instead, and everything would really take a dramatic turn. So while awaiting further examination, he was housed at the Coalbath Fields prison. However, Williams was found dead in his cell on December 28, 1811, having apparently hanged himself with his own scarf. This act was widely interpreted as an admission of guilt by the public and the authorities. The suicide left the case in a peculiar position. Officially, it was open, but with the main suspect dead, the impetus to continue the investigation pretty much just faded away. It waned. Many took his death as closure, believing justice, though unconventional, had been served. However, this also meant that Williams never had his day in court, leaving the possibility of his innocence unexplored and several questions unanswered. And what they're about to do is not uncommon. And I know you guys that tune in to my streams and stuff, we've talked about just silly behavior. But yeah, we're going to get into that. So in the wake of John's suicide, the authorities and the public sought closure in the manner that was both macabre and reflective of the times. On December 31st of 1811, a makeshift and informal trial was held at the morgue where William's body was displayed. This was not a legal proceeding in the modern sense, but rather a public spectacle where the evidence was laid out before the citizens of London. The body was surrounded by the tools of the crime, including the maul, and various witnesses came forward to speak of what they knew or what they had seen. This event served as a kind of communal catharsis, allowing the public to see for themselves the man accused of the terrifying acts that had gripped the city in fear. The public display and the informal examination served as a de facto trial for Williams, who could, of course, not defend himself. The citizens, many of whom who were still reeling from the shock of the murders, participated in this process with both a mix of fascination and horror. The display was intended to both condemn Williams as well as to reassure the public that the threat had been contained, though in an unconventional manner. But it was fairly conventional for the time. Following the public viewing, the treatment of Williams' body took on an even more peculiar and symbolic turn. In accordance with the customs of the time regarding suicides, particularly those suspected of heinous crimes, Williams was not given a conventional burial. Instead, his body was subject to a ritual meant to ensure the spirit of the deceased could not return to haunt the living. On January 1st of 1812, his body was paraded through the streets of London in an open cart, a final act of public shaming. The procession ended at a crossroads near the scene of the crimes, where Williams was buried with a stake driven through his heart. I will also tell you that the grave was intentionally shallow. It was only about 4 feet deep, and it was intentionally small so that his corpse would not be comfortable. Now, people today would know this crossroads as the junction of Cable Street and Cannon Street in Spitalfield, London. I will tell you, though, that William's body was exhumed 100 years later when a water main was installed on Cable Street. However, his skull was kept for many years as a curiosity behind the bar in the public house at the crossroads. So yeah, that one went a little quick tonight, but I hope you like the story. Like I said, it was a little bit better known, but it's one I've been wanting to cover for a while. And I would actually like to go back over Jack the Ripper. I did him years ago, and I would like to eventually go back and revisit that. But that's, like I said, I don't like doing the well-known ones as much as I like to do the obscure ones. But we do like to pepper them in a little bit. So yeah, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's get over to the comments real quick and see what's going on. Okay, so Kisa says she's been to Netherworld, and they have moved that over to Stone Mountain. See, that's the one that we went to back when it was over off 85. And the year that we went, because don't get me wrong, I like Netherworld. Netherworld's got some cool effects and things like that, but it's because it's different every year. Some years, at least for me, are better than others, and we got super lucky. It was a really, really good one. So yeah, Kisa, Netherworld is a lot of fun. Exactly. So John says they kept his skull behind the bar. A toast to John. Was it John or Jack? A toast to Jack. Yeah, it would have been a toast to Jack. So yeah, and it wasn't uncommon to keep pieces like that, and we've talked about that too. Anything from making like books from a criminal's skin, such as Birkin hair, you know, using his skin to actually as the leather cover for the book, to like what some people refer to as like screaming skulls and those type of skulls that they keep at bars and things along those lines. it's a good thing we've come as far as we have. I mean, those are kind of neat things to think about as far as just how, I don't know, macabre things were back then. But I think that goes back to, I think death was a lot closer to everybody. Then we've really separated ourselves from death. It's a much bigger deal now than it used to be, I do believe. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. And again, don't forget to tune in tomorrow with You Can't Sit With Us. We were unable to go Thursday, so we will be on tomorrow night. And yeah, you guys have a great weekend and pleasant nightmares, everybody. Bye.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.